Good morning, team, and welcome to Unit 1 of Principles of Management. Once again, I'm Dave Fluff. So this week we are reading Chapter 1 in our textbook and doing some discussion boards. And anyways, inside Chapter 1, we discover that there's different levels and different types of managers. That we are not, a manager is just not an operations manager. There's also human resource managers. There is staff managers. There's line managers. There's different hierarchies of managers. As we get higher up or lower in the management skill abilities, each hierarchy requires different skill sets and personality sets, whether it's interpersonal communications or strategic vision. As we get higher up in the hierarchy, these abilities and skills become very necessary. So, and we also discover in our readings about leadership. And there's some quotes in there, some of them you might agree with, some of them you may not agree with, and actually a lot of those quotes I don't agree with. Leadership is hard to define. We can identify good leadership. We can definitely describe and identify bad leadership, but to put it into words, it can be what a good leader is. It's difficult, and so I always define leadership as the ability to motivate others to achieve a common goal, and that's a pretty recognized and standard definition of leadership. So think about that. We want to motivate others that could be internally or externally motivated to achieve a common goal. So to achieve a task, right? So how we do that is up to us and the people that we are leading. So for instance, if I am going to be a draconian style leader, an authoritarian, that may not motivate my employees. It may motivate them for a day or so. Hey, I got to get this done so I don't get fired. But you know what's going to happen in the long term? They're going to leave the company, and it's going to cost me a lot of money because I'm going to have to retrain people. I'm going to have a high turnover. And so there goes the profit margin. So being a draconian type leader or draconian manager is not always a necessary good thing. So we talked a little bit in our readings about the planning, organizing, leading, and controlling aspects. Now this is going to be the framework for this book and this text. Planning, organizing, leading, controlling. And the first one, as we move through this course, we're going to talk about planning. And we're going to talk about vision and planning. And we kind of hinted on that in this course, in this reading for this unit. And write this down. We're going to talk about it more in the future. It's called PESTLE, right? And we want to think about these things when we are coming up with a strategic vision. We want to think about political factors, right? Is my decision going to have political ramifications? Is it going to have economic? Can I do this financially? Right? Social status, and this is we're going to talk about on a discussion board. Social status, socio-economic impact is a big deal when making decisions. So, for instance, if I wanted to do something like open up a pork factory in the Middle East, that's not going to go over well at all. They don't eat pork, right? So I'm not thinking about the social economic status of my decision making. Technological impacts. Can I do this with the technology out there? Anybody that's a Star Wars fan like me, they kept remaking it because George Lucas didn't have the technology available, and then when it came available, they remade the movie. So, anyways, you got to think about the technological aspects of the decisions that you are making. Environmental, right? That's a big factor, and a lot of people overlook it. But if you are damaging the environment, you are damaging your long-term credibility in the area. You are facing possible fines. Legal actions. Don't mess. Always think about the environment, and that's just not the Earth environment, but we're talking about the people living in the area too, you know. And then the last one is the legal factors, right? So you got to think, can I legally do this? Now, a lot of people might think first legal aspects, but usually, if you thought of all of those other parts of PESTLE, legal will fall into play. Yeah, you'll be covered. So anyways, like I said, we're going to talk about more about PESTLE. And if you looked it up online, which I encourage everybody to do, you could see different, acronyms, PEST, for instance, or PESTILE, or, it's all pretty much the same. This book, we talk about PESTLE. Okay? So, remember what other key takeaways we have here in our books here. Learning styles. Here's a little tip for you, right? We talked about, I also teach curriculum development, right? We talked about visual, audio, and kinesthetic learners. Here's a key if you're watching people. Ask somebody a question. If their eyes roll up like this, or they do this, looking up at the sky, they're generally a visual learner, right? They are trying to envision it in their brain if you gave them a question. If you ask somebody a question and they start doing this, and they're looking down, they're probably a kinesthetic learner. They're thinking about doing it. So for instance, you ask me, hey, we got to put a jet engine together, and I'm not sure how this piece, I don't make jet engines, I don't know what I'm talking about, but I got to figure out how this piece fits into the flux capacitor of the jet engine. And I start doing this. Well, I'm a visual learner, right? Because I'm visioning it, how that flux capacitor fits into that jet engine. So, yeah, pay attention to people and see what you can do if you notice any of these traits. Okay, so once again, I'm Dave Plouffe, and you have my emails, you have my cell phone. Contact me if you have any questions.